Virtua Fighter 4 is the PlayStation 2 exclusive version of the latest entry in Sega's premier arcade fighting series. The game has been brought over from the Naomi 2 arcade hardware onto the PlayStation 2. Fortunately, the conversion was done by Sega's internal development team, AM2, that was responsible for the arcade game. The team actually has had a pretty amazing track record in bringing VF games home. They have been able to do some pretty stellar conversions on some pretty shaky hardware. They've been doing it since we got the first version of VF on the Saturn, and they crammed VF2 on the Saturn, and they really got a lot out of the troublesome Saturn hardware. So it kind of prepared them for the challenge of making the PS2 behave, and the results they've gotten have been impressive. The game is very close to the arcade version of the game. There's obviously been some compromises made, but nothing as drastic or nothing as noticeable as in previous conversions of VF games to the home, which is cool. But aside from the graphics, the thing that has come over fairly intact is definitely the gameplay. It's a little hard to tell right now whether or not the game is actually arcade perfect. VF4 for the PS2 is actually based on VF4 version C, which will be releasing in Japanese arcades later this month. While we haven't really had a chance to play Virtua Fighter 4 version C, this Virtua Fighter definitely feels right. The fighting system has kind of undergone a tweak yet again. The series is kind of making a return to its roots in a way. Virtua Fighters 1 and 2 used a 3-button setup: guard, punch, and kick. Virtua Fighter 3 and Virtua Fighter 3 Team Battle implemented the escape button. The button allowed for 3D movement and really changed the dynamics of the gameplay. For VF4, AM2 has actually gotten rid of the escape button and changed the way that the arenas are. One of the sort of groundbreaking things that people felt about VF3 was that the arenas in it were multi-level. You had sloping ground that you'd have to sort of compensate for during a fight. And that's kind of gone now. Instead, we're back to the same 3-button setup, and the arenas are just one level and pretty basic. Most importantly, the throws are very different in this game. Whereas in the earlier VF games, you could get up a throw pretty easily. You have to time them a little bit better in VF4 because most of them are catch throws, which basically require you to sort of nab an opponent. There is a slight delay in your sort of reaching for them. So there is some work involved now, and they can't sort of be abused as much, but just there's an overall balance to the game that AM2 has done, which works really well. They've always been good about implementing changes and not sort of like drastically throwing things off. The attention to gameplay balance is also why the series roster has sort of grown slowly. Traditionally, you'll only see 2 new fighters per VF game, because AM2 sort of like eases them into the mix and gets the balance right and makes sure that they just don't bust out with 30 new characters that completely script the balance of the game. However, this time out we are missing one. The sumo wrestler from VF3, Taka Arashi, is MIA. Instead, we've got Vanessa Lewis and Lei. Vanessa is a grappler type fighter. She's a security officer, and she's got some pretty devastating moves. And Lei is a monk, and he is also quite good for people who want to just hop into the game, and because he plays pretty easily, he's sort of more user-friendly. There's a lot of depth to the gameplay in VF that's very evident in VF4. VF4 plays a lot like VF2, so if you're familiar with VF2, you should be kind of comfortable in VF. But there are higher levels of play, which should appeal to hardcore VF fans who have definitely gotten used to paying attention to keyframes of animation to know when you'll be able to get in a hit or get in a move. It's really cool that AM2 has actually gone the extra mile and included a very comprehensive training mode that sort of makes the game accessible to people that maybe haven't played VF. You'll have 3 types of training that you can do that will help you get down the various mechanics in the game and sort of ease you into it. In addition to the conversion of the arcade mode, there's several other modes for you to explore in VF4. And there's sort of an interesting new feature which isn't quite a mode, but it does come into play into other aspects of the game. The Datafile Mode in the game will allow you to create a custom character, which you can use in the Kumite and Versus mode. The data file that you create tracks your stats, tracks how you perform in fights. and it will also store that data along with items that you can unlock as you go through those modes, which is very cool. Because what happens is as you progress through those modes, eventually you'll see little chests appear on screen, and those are actually items that you can use to either customize your character's appearance by like new outfits or new hairstyles or even accessories that they can wear. The other thing that you'll be able to do with data files is create your own AI characters, which you'll actually be able to train in the game and sort of teach it how to fight. It's kind of a cool thing because you can actually see them learning, and it's just kind of funny because, you know, it's very possible to make an AI character that's actually better than you, which is a little scary. The time that we spent with VF4 was pretty addictive. The game definitely sort of is a return to the type of gameplay that people really enjoyed in VF2, but it retains a lot of the technical aspects that came out of VF3. Which is cool. So it's an interesting mix, it's an interesting blend. There's a lot of different things that they try and do in the game. The game's much more cinematic, which is sort of, I think, the result of AM2's work on Shenmue, because there's definitely a lot of camera work that we haven't seen before. The game has a rougher feel to it. The characters look older. The graphics style is again sort of like going off into a more realistic direction. So the characters look older and a little weathered, which is kind of cool. See, so far Virtua Fighter 4 is coming along really well for PlayStation 2. Obviously, it's kind of a challenge bringing over the arcade game perfectly, but AM2 has been known to work miracles, and it looks like they're doing pretty well so far. The game isn't actually due out until probably March in the US, so there's still time to sort of tighten things up and just get it to run like everybody wants it to.